Hey everyone, today I'm going to tell you a story about how a man was visited late at night by someone he never expected. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. It was around 2:35 a.m. I was sitting on the couch in the living room with the lights off, the TV just running as background noise while I scrolled on my phone. Suddenly, the program was interrupted by an emergency news broadcast. Every channel announced that a highly dangerous maniac had escaped from the state psychiatric prison a few hours earlier. They showed his face in close-up on the screen. Pale skin, huge bulging eyes that seemed too large for a human face, and that horrifying, unnatural smile. His mouth stretched almost ear to ear, as if someone had deliberately cut his cheeks. The anchor kept repeating that he was extremely violent, unpredictable, and had already left several victims during his escape. I stared at the photo for a few seconds, feeling a chill run down my spine, and muted the TV. And at that exact second, the doorbell rang. One long, piercing sound that echoed through the entire dark house. I sat up sharply. My heart started pounding. No one ever comes to my house at this time. No friends, no delivery drivers, nothing. I slowly stood up, walked down the hallway, and carefully approached the front door. I looked through the peephole. He was standing right there. A tall figure in a soaked dark coat, hood pulled back. Rain poured down on him, water streaming across his face, but he didn't move. Those enormous shiny eyes were staring directly into the peephole, as if he knew I was standing there. His smile was even wider than in the news, inhuman, stretched. I jerked away from the door so fast I nearly fell. My hands were shaking. The doorbell rang again, longer and more insistent this time. I stepped back into the living room and slightly pulled aside the edge of the curtain. He was now standing under the streetlight at the end of the driveway. He slowly turned his head toward me. His huge eyes caught the light, and the smile never left his face for even a second. I let go of the curtain and retreated into the darkness of the room. A minute later, the doorbell rang from the back of the house. I moved to the kitchen, my heart hammering in my ears. I looked out the window above the sink. He was standing right on the back patio, next to the sliding glass door. Rain poured over him, but he just stared inside. The same smile. He raised his hand and slowly tapped on the glass 3 times. Then he tilted his head and pressed his face closer, his enormous eyes trying to see me through the reflection. I quickly checked the entire first floor, looking at every window. A couple of minutes later, he appeared at the large panoramic window in the living room, standing on the lawn and staring straight into the room. I recoiled. I went to the dining room. He was already there, behind the side window, his face pressed against the glass. Smile stretched wide. His eyes followed my every movement. He started circling the house. I could hear his heavy, wet footsteps splashing through the puddles. Sometimes the footsteps would stop, and I knew. He was standing under one of the windows, watching. I ran upstairs, looked out the bedroom window. He was standing in the backyard garden, staring up. Head tilted back, huge eyes unblinking. Then he slowly walked around the corner and appeared at the bathroom window on the second floor. How he got up there so fast, I have no idea. My phone completely lost signal. No calls, no internet. Wi-Fi was gone. The lights in the house began to flicker, growing weaker. I went downstairs and locked everything I could. The front door with all the locks and the chain, the back sliding door completely, the garage, sealed tight. While I was closing the garage, I heard him walking right along the outside wall of the house. His footsteps squelched through the wet dirt right against the foundation. I returned to the living room and looked out again. He was standing at the front window, pressing his palms against the glass. His face was very close. That smile. His eyes stared straight through me. I turned off all the lights and sat on the floor behind the couch. But the silence didn't last long. He started walking around the house faster. The footsteps came closer, then moved away. Sometimes he would stop and simply stand at a window for several minutes. I saw his silhouette in different places, at the kitchen window, at the office window, then again at the big living room window. Every time those huge eyes searched for me in the darkness. The power in the house went out completely. Total blackness. Only the sound of rain and occasional flashes of lightning. In the darkness, the sounds became unbearable. Scratching at the front door, knocking on the glass of the back door, Then more scratching, this time at a second-floor window. He had circled the entire house from the outside and was now checking every inch. I grabbed a large kitchen knife and went back upstairs to the master bedroom. I locked the door, pushed the heavy dresser against it, and sat in the farthest corner with my back pressed to the wall. My breathing was ragged. For a few minutes, there was almost complete silence. Just the rain. Then the backsliding door started shaking violently. The sound of scraping metal, a cracking lock. The door burst open with a loud crack. Cold, wet air rushed into the house. Wet footsteps entered the kitchen tile. Slow, confident. The footsteps moved through the living room, stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Then they began to climb. The creak of every step. Each footstep left a wet, squishing sound on the carpet. I could hear water dripping from his coat. The footsteps reached the second-floor hallway. They stopped right outside the bedroom door. The doorknob slowly turned downward. The door shook against the dresser. Then came a quiet, persistent scratching along the bottom of the door. The dresser began to slowly slide forward, inch by inch, with a heavy scraping sound of wood on the floor. The door creaked open wider. First, a pale, wet hand with long fingers slipped through the gap. Then his face slowly pressed into the opening. Those massive, bulging eyes immediately locked onto me in the corner, reflecting the faint light from the window. The smile stretched even wider, unnaturally far, exposing teeth that looked too sharp in the darkness. He pushed harder with his shoulder. The dresser scraped loudly across the floor as it moved further. More of his tall, dripping figure entered the room. Water streamed from his coat onto the carpet, creating dark, wet patches. He took one slow step forward, then another. The stretched smile seemed to grow even bigger as he got closer, twisting his face into something that no longer looked human. He stopped just a few feet away from me, towering. Water continued dripping from his sleeves. The knife in my hand suddenly felt useless. He tilted his head slightly to the side, still smiling that same horrible smile, and took one final step. If you live in a quiet suburb and, in the middle of the night, you hear a doorbell after hearing news like this, don't go to the door. Don't look through the peephole. Don't peek out the windows. Just grab your keys and leave as far away as you can.